data technology that I'm so passionate about. One thing that I must admit that I'm not a branding and marketing expert in this floor. So we heard Sumanji and Dr. Hers talking earlier about marketing and branding. The story that I'm going to talk about today is how can technology be leveraged to support the arguments that we have put forward, right? So if you're looking for some marketing and branding tip, maybe I'm not the right person. So that was just a disclaimer, right? So today what I'm going to talk about is, I know a little bit of marketing and branding, but I'm going to talk more about data connection. And I know that in the schedule people were talking, there was a mention of big data, right? And can I just quickly see how many people actually know what big data is? Can you please raise your hand, just from the perspective of, okay, perfect. Very few, right? And so there's a saying in the big data world. Big data is like teenage sex, right? So everyone talks about it, but nobody knows anything about it. So that is why, like, when some people say that I'm really a big data expert, there are rooms for us to still question, because this is a learning in progress, right? Okay, before data, let's look into this fact, right? 3 billion people use the internet now. They are using it at this point of time when I'm talking. Right? What does that actually mean? Just give it a thought, right? And another interesting thing is 2 billion plus people use internet on a smartphone. So what does that actually mean? That means, as a marketing expert or somebody interested in marketing, you can see that there are 2 billion people right now you can directly connect with. At this point in time, you can reach out to these 2 billion people as of now, right? And how much is this number? Any idea? Even I can't tell, right? So that's 8 zettabytes. That's of unique new data created worldwide in 2015. What is zettabytes like? Any idea? No, right? And that is the information more than the data that we created in past 5,000 years. And we created that much amount of data in 2015 itself. So look at this thing and just, you can then kind of make it feel that how does it matter to me as a marketer, as a brand expert, or somebody leading a company, right? And that is where we talk about Internet of Things, even before big data. How many of you know IoT, by the way? Internet of Things is like, for example, when I say internet, I normally think about connecting to my computer or my mobile phone, but again, we're living in a world, right? This is a reality where I've seen a company in Pakistan that produces a collar for the cow, and they very uniquely named it cowlar, right? What that machine does is, it measures the temperature of the cow on a constant basis, sends the data to the server, so that the farmer can know that this cow of mine is having temperature issues. Maybe she is in heat. She needs to be taken to the doctor or whatever. Right? That is called Internet of Things. When I'm driving in the US, for example, the car company can know my driving pattern based on the kind of sharp turns that I make, or based on my driving habits, so on and so forth. When I go back to my home and turn on my microwave oven, it is sending data to the parent company in some cases that says, this is how people are actually using your microwave oven, your product, right? So virtually it means anything that we do in modern world, as you can see here, while you're sleeping, there are technologies available to monitor your sleeping pattern, which is related to health. Right? In healthcare industry, that's becoming used, right? So Internet of Things is allowing us to produce more and more data. And the kind of data that we are producing here is data that is very, very real-time, data that is very, very personalized, and it is about the specific individual that you want your products to be bought by. We're not talking about general aggregated data anymore. We know, this is what I always say. Perhaps there is a company called Google who knows more about me than I know about myself these days. Google knows that, this is my interest in ag, which I already developed, right? How interesting is that when Facebook suddenly, pops out a photo of last fifth, which was taken 7 years back, and says like, this is how you are connected to them. So these companies know more about me as an individual than myself, right? So that is all about, we are working with data, right? It looks very sci-fi kind of thing, but again, this is the reality. And as a marketer, perhaps this is something that you cannot live without if you want to really succeed in one world. And this is where we talk about big data, right? Through connectivity, I talked about internet, I talked about mobile phone, I talked about Internet of Things, right? What does that do? It generate data. Data at a volume that we cannot even think about. So we have stopped this discussion about how much data is generated. We know that it's more than 5,000 years in a single year, so, and it's going to double. The curve is going to be very, very steep, right? So we do not even talk about that. We talk about how do we harness that data, and that's why we come to the concept of big data. I know this is a new concept, so I've given a little theoretical definition as well. It's whatever you see, it's data that is so large that you cannot handle. You need supercomputers in the past to handle that processing of data. It's like how many of you tried to work on Excel spreadsheet where you have like 50,000 rows? Have you ever given that a try? You cannot, because your Excel is going to crash. And we are talking about 50,000 million such rows of data. Right? So if this is where I'm not going to talk about specific what big data means. It's about data that is so large that a traditional application would not be able to process. And this is where the relation, a traditional mindset would not be able to process that data. We need a change in the aptitude, we need change in mindset of people so that people can think about how do I make use of that data. But this does not necessarily mean that big data is out of scope, and it is not something for me, is not the thing that I want to get into, right? It is for everybody. And big data is the thing that is used extensively today with business intelligence and analytics. And as I said, we're living in a world where we need intelligence and analysis on real time. Imagine how many of you have heard Google cars, driverless cars, right? What it is doing is, while you are moving on while the car is on the street, it is sensing some obstacles, and that is sent directly to the server, and so the instruction is sent back saying, turn left. Right? So we are talking about processing of those kind of data in a fraction of a second. And that is already possible, and that is available to us. We as a company are using such technology in some kind of predictive analysis. So it's not the case where earlier you needed this, $1 million supercomputer to process that. Now technologies are there, which is I can subscribe for $20 a month and get the benefit of processing such kind of data. But the reality is that we, as marketers, as management people, never even think about that. What we say is that this is technology. Let me think about hiring some engineer who's going to process, but that's not going to work out because your engineer is not going to know what you need as a marketer. And it should be marketers who say that I need this, and let the technologists do their work. Right? And as I said, if you see that business intelligence and analytics is something that is very critical, then you cannot live without big data anymore. But there are challenges. Right? You need to know how to analyze, how to capture, how to curate, how to search, store, blah, blah, blah. And that is where the bigger fun of big data comes in picture. We need to know about, these are the challenges. Yes, we know the value of big data, but again, there are a lot of challenges that we will definitely come across. And this is where I was talking about the first thing that we need is not technology, we need a mindset, a data mindset, right? Let me just talk a little, before talking about the process of data and the data mindset, I just want to make a connection based on my limited understanding. If this conference was about international finance, I would have known more than anyone else, because that is our area of expertise, and this is where, and that is an area, by the way, where we are using the concept of big data providing services internationally. But I have tried to pull out some of my learnings based on my research, based on the linkage between big data and marketing. How many of you know this? Amazon has this is a patented, a concept where it's predictive shipping. what you want before you want it. What does that mean? Amazon has a technology that says they're going to ship products before even I order it in Amazon.com. Sounds like really, really crazy, right? Even before I buy something, people would already have shipped that. And I'm not talking about fiction here. This is not from a movie, that was aired in 1980s. I'm talking about the technology that has been patented by Amazon and they have already tested, right? Sounds fun, right? But look at the data that they have to play with. This is the data that is generated in every 60 seconds. In every 60 seconds, there are over 500,000 Google searches that they have to analyze. Right? The way they predict is based on these kind of things. What is it that your potential customer is doing right now? Right? They have, in 60 seconds, these kind of data are generated, and you have to process that, you have to analyze that, then only your predictive shipping model actually works. Right? So we always talk about new models of doing, new ways of doing it, but we do not understand the fact that in reality, this could be just difficult. Imagine the data produced in 60 seconds and you have to process that within half a second and generate analysis reports that can drive your decision making on real time. Right? This is where that was just a teaser to say that big data is already making an impact. And the reason that Amazon is able to process this kind of thing is by adopting big data. And again, big data is not only for Amazons and Facebooks and those, it's for everyone. If you are working, maybe Sumanji would be interested to see how he can analyze the pattern of people using water so that he can strategize his business operating. And those are the kind of things that's already happening. As I talked about the small company in Pakistan making huge impact using big data technology, right? And this is where big data and marketing has like three major things. One, customer engagement. And I'm talking about individual engagement. It's like I walk to a restaurant that I always go, and I'll be really happy if the bartender that I know smiles at me and says, like, how was your day? That simple thing is enough for me to buy one more glass of beer, right? And we are talking about providing such individualized customer engagement on a one-to-one basis. And that is possible through big data, because Google knows, as I said, what I'm going to do next, what I did earlier. So that is really, really possible in every context. The next thing is customer retention and loyalty. What persuades your customer to come back to you again? Right? Do you want to? So normally, in a normal mode, let's say, what we actually do is we issue loyalty cards, discounts, with an expectation that that would incentivize your customer to come back. But there are like 1,000 other things that we have not considered. And I always share this fact that when we study, we say other things remain the same, and in the real world, nothing remains the same. It's the 1,000 other things that does not remain the same that has an impact on customers' decision. Right? Yesterday, I took my mother-in-law and my mom to a restaurant to celebrate Mother's Day. Right? And we were looking into the best restaurant because my mom is a vegetarian and we need to find some Indian vegetarian restaurant, right? So we looked online, searched, did everything and could not find a place that I really loved. So then what I did is I remember that I had a friend who is a vegetarian, right? And I talked to him and said, can you recommend one? He recommended one and I went there straight, right? So imagine, if you relate this with your marketing experience, so incentive schemes that we normally think does not really work in that model, because I depend on this guy whom you as a restaurant owner might not even know that has an influence in my business decision, right? But through data, we can actually make that happen. In Facebook, people can see this guy is connected to this kind of person, and the kind of frequency of our interaction sees that this guy has a direct influence on your decision making, and that is possible through such kind of data mindset. And the other thing is about marketing optimization and performance, right? You have your marketing budget, you have your branding budget, and you would want to adopt different channels, including social media, but you would want to see on a real time whether my marketing investment is yielding results or not. And I want to know that on real time as in every minute. I want to see the impact in every minute. So that if you think, okay, our paper advertisements are not doing good, I will shift to another thing where there's more impact, and you would want to do that in every half an hour. And you can do that using big data. And that is how I see three different distinct application of big data in marketing. But there are the challenges, and we are expected to know that. And it is you as a marketer who are expected to know this. Right? No big data scientist would come to your team and say like, I will help you use big data. But these are the things that you need to do. What data to gather? Do you want to gather all those zettabytes of data? Or what specific data that you need for your marketing activities to produce better results? Right? What tools to use? I know that this is not really interesting for most of the management students and professionals, but again, you've got to know, you've got to have an idea about tools. You might not necessarily need to code and learn programming and everything, but you've got to understand that this is the data that I have, and I know that this kind of tool exists, now make it happen. And that's where you cannot live without technology anymore. The most successful people internationally, in terms of data science, are not computer graduates. These are people, these are economists, these are management gurus, these are like geologists who know what to process, and then they would, out of sheer interest, they would learn technology and become data scientists. Right? So you need to know what data, what analytical tool to use, and more importantly, how does that data matter? How do you go from data to insight and then to impact? Tracking my personal behavior over Facebook, how does that have an impact on your business decision? That is something that you need to know, and I'm sure as marketing and management professionals, you know that, but again, this is how you need to relate back and say I need this kind of data, right? And this is where there's, okay, it's a little fuzzy. And I did not do my presentation after the beer yesterday with them all, so there are some issues with it. Okay, this is where we have data science process. The process talks about first, we need to have raw data, right? And that data is processed, the raw data is processed to fulfill my needs, second stage. And then we produce a clean data set that we can exploratorily analyze to see if it is making sense or not. Am I getting the kind of insight that I want? And if you think you've got there, then you do models and algorithms and implement in a technology environment, and that is then used to communicate and visualize reports, and data is produced again that is again fed to the real world. This is a data science process that every individual in next 15 years is expected to master. Trust me, because we are living in a world where everything is about data. Right? So this is the process that every marketer, every management person will need to understand. Then you say that, okay, I have a skill gap in terms of modeling and algorithm. That is when you seek assistance from other experts. But again, if you do not know the complete cycle, there's no way that you can use data. I'm almost there now. And I'm not talking about fixing, right? I'll give you some screenshots of things that I really found interesting. And the prospect is already here. In 2015, there's an article, why every marketing department needs a data scientist. People are already saying that, a marketing team needs a data scientist. Meaning, you cannot say that, okay, we have the best financial expert, we have the best marketing expert, and this is our team, right? You need to have data, because then, the reason being, we need somebody to look into this kind of thing, right? You need to have a data mindset. Similarly, the hottest jobs of 2015 were data scientists and marketing technologists. It's not about marketing, chief marketing officer, it's about chief marketing technologists in the US. I'm talking about in 2015, and it is always expected to rank. And you do not come out of statistics or computer science or engineering to fill these kind of jobs. You come from a mindset with a management background. This is a summit that is happening in May in the US, Big Data and Marketing Innovation. a global summit. So as I said, like, we're not talking about fiction anymore, we're talking about things. People are already talking about it. People are already harnessing the power of big data to drive their business decisions and business processes, right? And this is why we want to know if we want to be left out or not. This is the pie that says big data jobs are everywhere, in every sector, in retail, trading, everything. This is based on data in 2014. Right? So last but not the least, we have like, according to the report, the prospects of chief marketing technologists have increased like more than any other jobs in the management arena. For companies making over 500 million revenue a year. So that in a sense is it gives a sense that whether we want it or not, it's already here. So now it is up to you guys to decide whether you want to be on the bandwagon and take the advantage or that, or be left. Thank you.